This is your first time in Croatia. Let's start with Cro Cop, because here in Croatia everybody knows Josh Barnett because of your trilogy with Cro Cop. You fought him 3 times, and that's enough to get to know your opponent really well, almost become friends. What do you think about Cro Cop and his career and accomplishments?
I think he's had a pretty fantastic career. I know that some of the American fans that are very specific to the UFC, you know, they never really got to see Cro Cop at his absolute best. And you know, I can tell you from being in the ring with him 3 times that you know, Cro Cop at his peak back then in Pride was definitely one of the toughest men in the entire world. He was a fantastic fighter and was the equal, if not better, to anybody that you could find in the UFC today. You know, his accolades really speak for themselves.
And what do you think about the way he ended his career? Is that the way a fighter like him had to go? Or?
In what regard?
Does he still have fight in him?
Well, I don't really know about that, you know. It's the same sort of question that I get, or even people like Fedoru, or more. In this regard, I think it's more similar to the kind of a question that is aimed at Fedoru, and that is, you know, does he still have fight in him after being away from the ring for a period of time? And you know, only that person really knows. And I don't really fault an athlete for continuing to try and compete into their very last. You know, to my knowledge, neither Cro Cop nor Fedoru, they don't seem punch drunk. They don't seem outwardly damaged from fighting. I mean, we're all somewhat damaged from being athletes, but I don't think you could talk to any career athlete and have them say that their body has not taken the toll of abuse from training and competing for a lifetime. So, I mean, that's a common thing. But when you're an athlete, you only get so long to be an athlete, and then the rest of your life is going to have to be something else, you know. So as long as he still wants to fight, or as long as anybody still has that desire to go out there and fight, then they should try and go for it. But you know, only they really know when it's time.
You've been fighting for so long, and it's been 14 years since you became the youngest UFC champion in heavyweight division. And what keeps you still going? Because there's still some things that I haven't accomplished yet. There's also the fact that I still have the physical capabilities and the want to go out there and fight. And while I still have that window, I want to make the most of it. I don't want to, when I walk away from fighting, it's going to be the kind of decision where, you know, there's no real turning back. So I want to get everything I can out of this, and then when I'm done, I'm done. And you fought many MMA legends during your career, and which one was the toughest fight? Who hurt you the most?
Training has always hurt me the most, for sure. You know, all my fights with Cro Cop were always the toughest for one reason or the other. My fights with Nogueira were very tough, and my match with Daniel Cormier over 5 rounds, that was a pretty hard fight too.
Could you describe those 3 fights with Cro Cop? What were his strong points?
Oh, he's an incredible athlete. He's very strong, very fast. He's got great power in his strikes, and he's just a very physical and fast opponent. You know, he's got eyes like a shark, you know.
And which one was your favorite win?
Favorite win? I'd like to say that it hasn't happened yet, because I still want to leave the opportunity to let my career surprise me.
The world of MMA has changed a lot since you started fighting. And you fought in almost all major promotions. Can you tell us what the difference is? What changed for the fighters since the early UFC and Pride days?
I think the biggest thing is the fact that the UFC, being an American-based promotion, has really changed the way the fighting landscape has
matured in that with all the American media presence and the big stage of the coming out of America, it's given people a big opportunity to be a part of the biggest media market in the world. You know, the U.S. media is shown everywhere. And because of that, it gives all the fighters more visibility. It has increased the amount of pay that the fighters can receive. And it gives opportunity because they're being seen by so many people to be able to potentially branch out into things outside of fighting. You know, with even some of these fighters and former fighters that will say, work for the news, you know, side of things, and commentating, or if they're working for Fox or ESPN or a sports channel, just covering the event. I mean, that's an important step towards you know, us being considered mainstream. You know, I guess it's not so much about being a legitimate athlete. I think everybody knows that we're all legitimate athletes. It's just being accepted into that fold to where you know, we can get some of the same opportunities that another athlete might. And back when I started fighting, man, it wasn't really a possibility.
How important is money today in MMA fighting, considering the latest developments with Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey?
Money is always incredibly important in fighting, but mainly because it goes back to what I said earlier, and that is, as an athlete, you only get so long to do this. So, you know, the good thing about fighting is the fact that you do have an opportunity to make the opportunity. Not necessarily the likelihood, but the opportunity to make a lot of money doing this, and to also get, you know, some notoriety and fame, which can help you to use your name to bring other things to you, you know. But being an athlete is really hard on your body. Your body is your livelihood, and in fighting, not only is it your livelihood, but your opponent is trying to damage your livelihood, trying to beat the crap out of you. There really aren't too many other sports like that in the world. And the fact that the fighters and the promoters are kind of naturally on a adversarial scale. So as a fighter, you're always trying to get your best value and best opportunity. And a promoter is always trying to get their best value and best opportunity out of their thing, and your thing being you, the athlete, in their event. So there's always going to be a level of contention there, and some of it is going to come down to luck, some of it's going to come down to your performances, but in the end, nobody's guaranteed, even by being the champion, to necessarily get the best deal out there. And unfortunately, you really have to try and do so, because you never know when this is over. One bad punch, one bad injury in training, and this is no longer your life. And there's not necessarily a lot that MMA is going to prepare you for. Well, it doesn't lead directly into other things as far as job opportunities, besides other stuff around physical culture. And
when did you decide to become, when did you know that MMA is going to be your career?
Well, I'm an idiot, so I didn't really figure I had much other option. So I said, when I saw UFC 2 in high school, I thought I just had to do that somehow, some way. And I was watching Japanese MMA and pro wrestling and things that I wanted to do it. I figured this was right up my alley. This was a potential dream opportunity to have in life, and definitely a good story to tell someone at a bar, at the very least. So I ended up dropping out of university to pursue fighting, and had my first MMA fight at 19 years old in January of '97, on vacation from university. And I knew that it was the kind of thing that I had to dedicate myself to, but I always figured that if it didn't go the way I wanted to, or whenever it was over, I could always go back to university. I could always go and try to establish myself in a different way that didn't involve being an athlete anymore. And I just figured I'm only going to get this window once. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to get that. I'm going to take that shot. And it worked out for me. And you know, there's a lot of people that it doesn't really work out for, which is okay too, because you never know how far you're ever going to get in anything if you don't actually put your 100% effort into it and really try.
Yeah. Cro Copom was always nostalgic about Pride days, and he used to say that fighting in Japan was special because of fighters were treated differently and maybe better than in USA. So you fought almost exclusively in Japan and USA. What is your opinion about that?
I tend to agree with him. I really enjoyed my time in Japan. It was a fantastic moment, and even going over there in and around fights still, because I have fighters that I work with. To me, I always would try to describe to people what it's like to fight in Japan and what a brilliant place it is to be a professional fighter and how much they honor and respect, you know, pro fighters. I mean, you still have to negotiate, and you and the promoter are going to have to figure out how you're going to get paid and what. And there's plenty of things that are no different in Japan than they would be in the States. Everything there is not gold, but you know, I took one of my fighters over there, and he's been just fighting steady in Japan for a while now. And even after his first fight in Japan, after fighting in the States, and he just was like, wow, this is a completely different experience. The way, the freedom as an athlete, from the simple things where, you know, if you have your food in the back, nobody cares. It's not a big deal. If you need a pass for someone to come by to visit and then leave, that's fine. They'll get you that pass. You know, anything that seems reasonable as far as helping a fighter be comfortable and ready to go out there and compete, nobody has an issue with. Where big MMA event in California, I was cornering a person for the UFC, and the commission there at the time, it was all new to them. So one of their rules they'd come up with was you couldn't have any food in the back. So, but we couldn't, once we get to the arena, we couldn't leave the locker room. So the idea was, okay, you're going to tell me to tell my athlete that they're going to show up here like 6 hours before their fight. They're stuck in that room and they can't eat. And now you want them to go out there and compete. Yeah. It's like, well, okay, then it broke down to, well, you know, fruit. What if, you know, they're not really, what about protein? What about, you know, other types of carbohydrates? I mean, this is idiotic. What does it matter what a fighter eats before they fight? And in terms of any, like, concerns of doping and stuff like that, it's like, well, you're going to test them. What are they going to do from now until then that is somehow not going to get caught? It wouldn't make any sense.
Well, since you mentioned doping, you had some experience with failed tests, so can you tell us your opinion about that?
It's a better system now, especially with this group USADA. They're more of a neutral sanctioning body, so having them in control of things, while it is much more rigorous, much more strenuous, and it is, I think, really probably the only effective way at trying to be very stringent about doping or any form of banned substance that they are specifically against. Because, you know, even on that list, there's all kinds of things on there. It could be like cough medicine or things. So it can also get tricky. You know, it makes it more complex for the athlete. So you got to be very careful. But now to me, anyways, it seems like there's less potential personal interest. You know what I mean? Like if you make someone mad somewhere back in the day, you could pay for that potentially. With USADA, I don't feel like that's an issue. I feel like this is like the best and most legitimate step towards trying to have a completely, you know, substance-free sport. It has that intention. Yeah.
You never get the chance to fight Fedoru. Is that something you regret, and are you still willing to do that since Fedoru is back?
I'm absolutely willing to do that. I do regret not being able to fight Fedoru. I think it would have been a great fight, and I think that even if we were 50-year-old men, people would still want to watch it. You know, and it's not about. I just want to see what it would be like. I just want to fight him, go against his style, and experience that. And I don't know if I'll ever really get that opportunity. things are very difficult in trying to arrange fights nowadays. Things are a lot different than it used to be, and there's a lot of contractual language that gets in the way. But it would be a dream fight.
We have Ben Rothwell fighting in Zagreb against Junior Dos Santos. How do you see that fight, considering you fought Ben Rothwell?
Ben certainly has openings that Junior can take advantage of. He's a quick boxer. I was able to land a lot of good punches myself. Junior's got more height, which can help him. But the funny thing is, I think at this stage in their career, I honestly think that Junior may be a bit too worn down from some of his big fights, because he's had some where he's taken a lot of punishment, and that's not just been one or two, but it's also been quite recent. And he suffered a knockout recently to Overeem. So the thing is, I'm sure I hit Ben hard enough to make him see stars, but I've not really seen anybody really put Ben down. I think he's so durable, and he's got somewhat unorthodox, awkward timing, but it's good timing, and he's got good heavy hands. I've got a really good chin on me, so for me, I took some of his hardest punches, but I've taken Cro Cop's hardest punches in the face, and so just because you can doesn't mean you should. But I don't know if Junior can take that shot now. But I would say that if Junior is going to have a good chance of winning this fight, it will be down to head movement and footwork, and actually not trying to engage Ben that much. But Ben Rothwell is a very headstrong forward fighter. So even if you're out and you're moving and sticking, he might just cut the ring off, walk straight down on you, take 4 or 5 punches, and hit you with 2 or 3. And most of the time, it served his career to him getting the knockout.
And how do you predict the title fight between Fabricio Werdum and Stipe Miočić?
I feel pretty good about Miočić, although I have seen a couple missteps in his career where I didn't really think he was going to have as hard a time as he did with a couple opponents. But he's got a good wrestling background, which can help. Although people would say you wouldn't want to go to the ground with a guy like Werdum, but even if it was to just kill time, take him down, get position, stand back up, kick his legs a little bit, give yourself a little bit of a breather, frustrate your opponent and score some points. Because although I'm not a point fighter, I don't believe in trying to win by decision. Points, or the idea of points, at least winning some rounds over your opponent, puts pressure on them to have to catch up. And at a certain point in a fight, if it's a 5-round fight and Miočić has arguably won 3, then if Werdum's sitting back going, oh crap, I've only got 2 rounds to win. If I don't win him big, really, if I don't submit him or knock him out, I'm going to lose. He'll do something more desperate. He'll make a much bigger effort and become more open. And that would give someone like Miočić an easier opportunity to try and put the fight away himself. I think his hands will be his best weapon. He's got quick, good boxing. But the trouble with Werdum is, one, he poses a threat of the ground game. And that may intimidate, or not even so much intimidate, but it's going to scare an opponent away from wanting to engage there. So that can take away a whole aspect of the fight. The other thing is his kicking and kneeing ability has much improved over the years. And he is incredibly confident right now with his striking. He's got more height, more reach. He has a decent amount of power in his hands and legs, but the legs, if he can get his legs off and keep those kicks coming into Miočić's body and leg, and then throwing the knee up the middle, it can be a big deterrent to keep Miočić from closing that distance and using his hands. So it really comes down to which one can establish that rhythm first.